when you stick 3 opinionated blokes in a room and put World of Warcraft in front of them.
A completely unchained view from each of them that clash in spectacular fashion, much like the best raids of all time. Classic.
There's going to be someone who's always right and someone who's always wrong, like Dunkirk is, as we know the latest raids are much better.
So, with that in mind, it's time to take a look at the latest Warcraft news and speculation. But be careful what you wish for, because
you think you do, but you don't.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is the Almighty Farseer, and joining me today is none other than the illustrious and horde-supporting Kexman.
Yes, I am the Kexman, and it's good to be back here on Warcraft Radio with You Think You Do, But You Don't. We are, however, again a man down. He unfortunately is currently once again merged with a bus.
Yep.
It's not something we can stop, unfortunately.
No.
However, we'd like to thank you for joining us here
Yep.
this evening, whether you're joining us live or you're joining us on YouTube or Anchor, any of those. It's always great to see your comments, read your comments based on the show. If you do have any comments that you'd like us to get hold of, make sure you leave them on YouTube. Make sure you join our Discord, which should have all the relevant links in both the description of the audio or on YouTube. Or if you're in Twitch right now, just use !Discord to grab the link for that.
Yeah. So for the show, we always check them. We always check the videos or anything. If you guys got any things you want to put out there, we're like, hey, what's up? Stuff like that.
What's going on? We always, if you have anything that you want to put forward for the show, use Discord.
Yeah. Do you think anyone's listened to us? Do you think anyone's listened to us on a plane yet?
I don't know.
I wonder.
I don't know if this podcast has joined the Mile High Club yet.
I don't know. If you are listening to us on a plane, or if you have, then let us know. We want to know if this pod, audio wise, we have arrived at the Mile High Club or not. Exactly. Or on anything, say you listen to us like driving to work or on the bus or something, let us know. That may seem really weird and odd, but we're curious people. We like to know these things. We just like to know.
Yeah, we want to know, how do you listen to us? Do you listen to us live? Do you listen to us on your way to work? Do you listen to us when you want to get angry at something? Because let's face it, there's some anger on this show sometimes.
Yeah, just a little bit. And look, I'd say, how do you take your "you think you do but you don't"? How do you take your unzoops?
Yes. How do you like to leave yours to soak? Do you eat them dry?
Yep.
Do you eat them moist?
Do you put the milk in before the cereal like some heathen?
Who the hell puts milk in before the cereal?
I know.
The cereal just floats on the top. What absolute psychopath does that?
Some people.
That's like, by the way, I'd like to point out as an Englishman, if you are the sort of person that puts milk in before the hot water when you're making a cup of tea, I
disgusted.
I will not even disgusting.
Disgusting.
Dunkirk isn't here, so I'm gonna have to knock up the Scottish for us.
Oh Christ!
It's absolutely disgusting.
He'll tell you that accent was terrible, but hey ho.
He probably would.
Mephisto.
Use, but you don't, with excess levels of condescension and sprinkles. Well, you're in the right place, because Farseer's got the sprinkles, I've got the condescension. We'll be fantastic together.
Yeah. Did you almost say condensation?
No, we didn't. Let's move on.
Condensation. Before we begin the show, of course, there is something to discuss. Very, very briefly. We won't touch on it too much, but obviously there has been some stuff going around from person to person. It's gone across from one continent to another.
It's pretty, people are avoiding cities. People are generally trying to avoid interaction. Quarantines are being put in place. However, we don't know when it's going to end. Yeah, it's quite serious. And we want to make sure that everyone is fully aware of what's going on. But of course we are talking about the blood plague from Zul'Gurub.
Yeah, so
Staying clear from that.
if you have visited Zul'Gurub in the past couple of weeks or so, please consult your nearest paladin or priest.
Please also consider
self-containment, maybe in the Chamber of the Heart. That's actually a good place.
That's quite a good place.
But if you are in the Chamber of the Heart, please stay there for 2 weeks. Again, paladin and priest. There's shamans and druids up at the top already trying to heal Azeroth, so they will help you out. But yeah, so yeah, just be safe. If you suspect that you might have the blood plague of Akar, the cursed blood, or if you know someone that does, then alert your nearest guard and paladin/priest authorities.
Let's try and cut this off at the source.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's a good job that there is no real world equivalent. That could, if that ever happened, we'd see a collapse in society. We'd see a collapse in people's general understanding over stuff like this. So it's a very, very good job that there isn't some form of quite highly contagious plague that's across the planet at this point in time.
No, it's a really, really good job. But hey, anyway, so with that message out there, let's get on to things. Speaking of messages, I have a very important message out there, which I want to put out, which is I am Blizzard. I'm once again asking you, when is the Shadowlands Alpha, and where is my invite?
Why does that sound like Obama via Captain Kirk? Why does that sound like William Shatner? Well, I'm once again asking you for
Blizzard. I am once again asking you for Shadowlands Alpha.
Yeah, it seems like it's been quite a while since we didn't have an announcement, but we obviously had the patches appearing on the launcher. We had various different things cropping up, different builds that, again, we couldn't get into for whatever reason. We know a lot of people have been trying. Marlamin, Mr. GM, doing some fantastic work in taking a look and making sure exactly when stuff's coming up. It's
the ground rule is if Marlamin can't get in, no one can get in. That's it.
Them's the rules.
He's literally like, if there's like a door that appears, a great grand door that Blizzard have just conjured out of nowhere, like Marlamin is there with a battering ram, like front and center, before anyone else has turned up from Wowhide or anything else. He's there like, just slamming against it. He will get in first. He will get in first if he gets in.
I kind of feel like turning around to Marlamin and being like, Marlamin, what's the Elvish word for friend?
And he'll say it, and the doors will open.
The Alpha will unlock. It is kind of almost. It's interesting to see that these builds are going up, and it's evidence that Blizzard are working on it behind the scenes. It's fairly obvious to assume that the people at the office have access to the Alpha servers, or at least have access to some form of Shadowlands servers. And yet we seem to be in a position where they haven't released it, and I don't think we've ever been in this position. We've definitely been in a position of seeing them have stuff going on, but not quite in the position of, okay, we can see stuff's happening. Are you going to give us something to work with?
Do you feel as though everyone is really gripping onto this because they are just wanting to be done with BFA and want to move forward into Shadowlands? Because I think I'm in that boat. If I'm honest with you, I think
It's the Alpha. The Alpha always brings a lot of excitement.
Yeah,
we know that. We've seen it happen, and we do know that there is a large portion of people that do solely want to have Shadowlands Alpha so they can be free.
Yes.
Excuse me. So they can be free of BFA. And I think it's a combination of multiple different things. It's the fact that it's an alpha, it's the new expansion. Everyone was very hyped after BlizzCon.
Yep.
But
are you okay?
I don't know. Combined with, obviously the disappointment in BFA, to make this something different than what we've had before. I think the closest we came was Legion, but Legion was announced slightly differently. Obviously, we had the announcement of Legion at Gamescom, and then
that was great though. By the way, that cinematic with Illidan and Gul'dan, that was good.
I think by the time BlizzCon rolled round, I think we already had alpha or beta access, or it was announced that we were going to be having it at a certain point.
Don't forget though that with Legion they were throwing out all the stops to pull out from WoD because they needed to. And
well, that's part of the reason why I think people are going to be excited with Shadowlands, is because they have a feeling people are going to be pulling out all the stops.
Do you know what's weird though? I said that, and I've only just realised as I said it. So I said, oh, so they kind of put that out there because they had to pull out all the stops after WoD because of everything that happened. They should be in that exact same position now with Battle for Azeroth, because as you've said yourself on the last show, you feel that Battle for Azeroth is worse than Warlords of Draenor. And if a lot of people feel that way, then Blizzard should be thinking to themselves, well, crap, we're literally looking at WoD 2.0 essentially in terms of, was the expansion a success or was the expansion not meeting our expectations? Now, if it didn't, then that's going to reflect from the player base. Obviously, they have all the eyes and they're getting all the feedback, so they can see things we can't. But I would not be surprised if there is a lot more negative than there should have been. I'd be shocked if there wasn't. So if they're not putting in as much effort as they were in Legion to go, okay, we definitely need to make sure Shadowlands is spot on, then I'd be kind of worried. So I think they are. They must be. They must be, right?
Here's the weird thing is you look at how they went from WoD to Legion and Legion to BFA. It seems it's really strange in the fact that they seemed to stay the same but go backwards at the same time.
Yeah, I feel that.
They definitely had. So if you think about it from, you literally just kind of very, very specifically say, okay, Legion, you had a secondary resource with a character progression system in artifact weapons and artifact power. In BFA, you have a secondary, you have a system like artifact power in Azerite power, and you have a character progression system based around that in your Azerite armor and your Azerite neck.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You had obviously, stuff like your mage tower and all that sort of thing, at the end. This, you have horrific visions, you have various different aspects of that. And again, the story does make sense. We've wanted to explore Kul Tiras and, Zuldazar for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. Very, very similar to the way we wanted to explore the Broken Isles and the Legion in Legion and, versus BFA. And I would be very, very interested to see exactly what their data looks like. And I'm always very, very surprised when people turn around and say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, or, they can't possibly say that. And we saw it on the interview with Ian that, Athelis did. And to me, it does, I can understand people's frustration, but to say to somebody like Ian, oh, you don't have the data, or oh, you don't know what you're talking about, just seems ignorant at best. Because if there is anybody that knows what they're talking about, it's Ian, because he has access to so much information.
It's not ignorant, it's almost to a level of arrogance, because you're basically just pulling your own opinion and going, oh, because I've witnessed this is clearly this is clearly a lot more than Blizzard's ever going to see, so I think all this is wrong. And it's like, okay, but that's just your view. And it's like, oh, well, my entire guild thinks this. Okay, that's just the view of your guild. Or that's just a view of your other 10 friends. That's not the 2 million population or whatever WoW is currently, maybe 5. And, of course, no one's going to know more than the World of Warcraft team and Ian. But that's the same can be said with not just the game mechanics and not just with how the game's gone via expansion to expansion, but also the same with lore as well. I really hate it when people keep going, oh, the lore's really shit. I mean, they used to be great, and obviously it's going in a bad direction, and they don't know what they're doing. It's like, of course they know what they're doing. They've written out lore, expansions in advance. So I don't, you know, it's stupid when people say, oh, they don't know what they're doing. And the worst line, the worst culprit for that is, oh, this character wouldn't do that. Blizzard wrote those characters.
I always especially, I know people have a lot of qualms about Sylvanas, and
I still can't. I have doubts, but I have doubts, and I'm a bit frustrated about how it's gone. But I don't go, oh, Blizzard don't know what they're doing. That's just stupid today. You know?
So let's expand upon that. Let's kind of use this as almost an example.
Oh God, he's turning into Atlas. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that, shall we? What are your doubts? Where do your doubts come from? What is it about the Sylvanas storyline, or more so the character of Sylvanas, that has caused doubts, or is it something outside of them?
It's just so weird. Like, okay, so what has caused me doubt, funny enough, is Ian himself. Now, if he didn't say this, then I'd probably have my own theories and be like, okay, this is straight. This is very straightforward. However, and you know exactly what it is. It was his morally grey statement. Now, this was a big prediction. So actually, you and Dunkirk said this before, that Ian has to be very careful about what he says going forward. And you said this like with the interview that Atlas had with him, or if anyone else asks him questions, and that's why he answers some things like a lawyer sometimes by not answering by not answering. Yeah. Because he's got to be careful. Now, I think the morally grey thing may have been an example of him going, ah, shit, I shouldn't have actually said that. Because so far, that's not been the case. It's just been very dark, torturous, bad villain behavior from Sylvanas. That's just how it has been solid. Now, if it turns out that she's been doing this for a reason, okay, sure, but I wouldn't say that's morally grey. It's literally like saying what Illidan was doing to try and kill the Lich King when he knew stuff everyone else didn't was morally grey, even though it could have destroyed Azeroth.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have called it morally grey. It was dangerous, and it was reckless, and yeah, it could have killed the Lich King, but that would have in turn then unleashed a scourge upon the world, uncontrolled, etc., etc. So was it morally grey? You know, so there's a lot to be careful. There's a lot to go through when it comes to that, and you've got to be careful when saying morally grey. So
I see. Here's my take on that. Is I would say that the morally grey. So when he said morally grey, it was said in context to the burning of Teldrassil. And I can understand why people were annoyed at that. If you take into account,
I was just confused.
This is where they made their misstep. If you take into account everything, so you read, you take into account what happened with herself throwing herself off Icecrown. You consider what happened with her arguments with Garrosh. You consider the being made war chief by Vol'jin. You consider the storyline of how it actually comes to them attacking Teldrassil. It does then become a morally grey decision. It's not necessarily, it's one that you can, so the whole point of morally grey is it's one you can understand, but one you don't agree with. You can still understand the decision if it, you're right there, you look very distracted.
No, sorry, I'm so, because like whenever you bring up something, I usually am like, oh, I should remember that and bring it up later, and I forget it. I'm actually being a smart boy and bringing up a notepad and noting it down for when you're finished. Continue.
You're actually using your brain.
I don't know.
There does seem to be a level of, again, I think a lot of people took his morally grey thing as her whole story is morally grey, rather than this particular point in this particular part of the story. That, I would concede you could consider it morally grey.
Yeah.
You can understand, even though it's a horrific thing to do, at the same time you can go, actually, if you look at her motivations, it makes sense. Then obviously as the story goes on, things are going to change. And it's like I said to you before 8.3 hit, hell, even before 8.2 hit, and you were saying that the story, you weren't enjoying the story of BFA. I said, wait until we get to the end. Wait and see what happens, because you can't compare it to a different expansion when you already have that whole expansion storyline. Now we're at the tail end of BFA. The storyline actually makes sense once you go, right, okay, now I understand why they're doing that. Now it makes sense. There are still things that are missing. I'm not going to lie.
I remember you saying.
That isn't missing.
I remember you saying.
And that's a giant, great big whomping sword stuck in Azeroth.
That is one thing. And I do remember you saying about wait until things wrap up to see. I do stand by what I said back then, though. To me, yes, it kind of explains a little bit, but not very well. I don't think there's too much. I think other people have said as well. I think how BFA has been told, Sylvanas' story specifically, has been told badly.
Okay, how would you do? Let's talk about that. How would you?
Damn it, Atlas.
How would you have done that different?
It's really weird because I haven't played the Alliance side, yet I already know from what I've seen and heard that Jaina's has come across much better. Now, maybe it's because Jaina had some a bit more depth to her, like she obviously had issues going back to her father. With her parents, and she had a lot of links with her family, and that made it a much stronger story, and it was sewn together rather well.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. When Jaina obviously went back to Kul Tiras, there was that connection, whereas for the Horde, it was more a case of we're searching for allies. Yeah. Whereas for Jaina, it was we're searching for allies, but the ties that I have to this place cannot be ignored.
Yes.
So I would say the storyline for Jaina was probably better than the one.
Yeah, it meshed well. Because it all came into the same story. But when it came to the Horde, it was, I'm a shadowy war chief of the Horde, and also these trolls have a thing going on. But we're sort of going side by side, and it's sort of connecting a little bit, but not at the Bonsamdi. But Sylvana, what? There's loads of different elements going on. Whereas on the Alliance, it was simply Kul Tiras, Jaina. Yes, you got like Lady Ashvane involved and stuff, but she was like the right hand of Jaina's mother, and you know it was all linked and all did really well. But like I said, on the Horde, it was just a mishmash of stuff. But speaking of the trolls, this is one thing I wrote down when you were talking about it. Have we found out yet who whispered to Vol'jin to make Sylvanas war chief? Was it N'Zoth? No. Okay, so we still don't know that one. That's a weird one. So, because you said, obviously, when Sylvanas became war chief and all that, and I was like, oh yeah, who whispered to Vol'jin? Like, he's still a mystery, isn't he? Because we've had that quest line with him, which is stopped, nowhere. Like, that's another thing. That speaking of, like, you know, holes in the story, that's just dropped off.
Coming back in Shadowlands.
Oh yeah, of course.
100% that is coming back in Shadowlands. It's, you know, we've got a couple of theories. You know, Jailer is a good one. Jailer's a good one. Hellier, potential. We don't know we don't know how the connection between Hellier and the Jailer works and her sort of domain of the damned. It leaves it quite open. I think the problem you had, two of the main problems is both of the storylines. So each faction going into their different areas.
Yeah.
You had Jaina going into Kul Tiras. There was a connection there where it was we're looking for allies. We're returning to Kul Tiras. You know, we're taking a look at the Kul Tiran Empire and what they've been doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, intertwined with all of this, we have the storyline of Jaina herself, how she becomes, you know, going from this person who was, you know, she's been through the ringer slightly, realistically, you know, Theramore being destroyed, and she hadn't
Theramore
really
and everything. Yeah.
When Theramore was destroyed, she didn't really have a place of her own. She never belonged anywhere. She never really belonged in Dalaran. It was you know, especially after what happened with the Sun Reavers. Now we have her homecoming into somewhere she belongs, somewhere she has gained the trust of again, even bringing back the famous Kul Tiran fleet.
Which is one of the coolest cinematics. Isn't that your favourite cinematic? Wasn't that Dunkirk's? That was Dunkirk's favourite cinematic.
It wasn't my favourite cinematic. Not even close. I think my favourite cinematic was actually the scene where
Bane.
Oh, my heart.
You okay?
I'm
Do you need a moment? You're okay.
Where Bane brings Jaina her brother back.
Yes.
Because you see the change in Jaina in that cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the regret in Bane's voice.
Okay, you haven't mentioned Ken this much in a long time.
I know. Yeah, you hear the regret in his voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was my favorite cinematic. But Jaina's story is intertwined with the war campaign.
Yeah.
They're what they're doing. Whereas there's two storylines you get in Zuldazar are very separate. You have the war campaign, we're looking for allies. And then all of a sudden you have this side campaign that doesn't include the war, the war effort at all or gaining allies. Where It's just, let's find out what's actually happening with Sylvanas. And it doesn't really go anywhere. All we learn is that, it wasn't Bronsamdi, it wasn't the Lich King, it wasn't any of the Valkyria. And that's, but we hear little tidbits here and there. It's basically, it kind of builds up Shadowlands without helping BFA, which is always a poor choice, to be honest. If you're going to be building up a future expansion, let it make sense with the current expansion, or make it so that the expansion itself kind of leads in a nice way, rather than just like, here's a quest line, and here's a quest line.
Yeah.
I would, I think that was the big fault with the quest lines and the story of BFA to a degree, is that it felt like it was all disjointed. If it would have been intertwined better, we're in a different story.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because, like, if we just place our cards on the table and just like we'll just revisit it just one last time before moving on. We literally just add, so as we say, Alliance Jaina, everything meshes in all well on there, and then Horde, Sylvanas, Zandalari Trolls, Gahun, Bronsamdi, and I think those were like the big players in that one. So you had like 3 extra things. So you had the Horde, and then you had Trolls, Gahun, Bronsamdi. They're all linked, of course, but they all had their own kind of arcing lines to them. So the Trolls and Bronsamdi you could kind of mix into one in a way, I suppose. But like, so then you've still got 2 going off, because like the Alliance had nothing to do with Gahun or Uldir when it first came out. That was also one of the biggest issues of BFA. It's like, what the hell's the Alliance got to do with this? And the Alliance were really confused about it. And then, like we said, the Horde had their own thing, and then the Trolls had their own thing going on. It's like, oh, okay. And eventually it sort of came together. And so Sylvanas is trying to gain like the Trolls as allies, and then meanwhile Talanji's looking at like Sylvanas stab people in the face and going, it's just a bit weird. But yeah, so I think the storylines were a little bit askew on Battle for Azeroth. The Horde got the worst end of the stick on it. This ain't like Horde or Alliance favoritism talking here. This is just how it's been written, I believe. I think most Alliance players, if they've looked at the Horde and gone and their own and gone, yeah, I think ours was a bit better this expansion, I would, as a Horde player, I would say so as well. Dunkirk's played both sides now, and he agrees as well that the Alliance got a better end of the stick.
Would you? I mean, Rav saying, where was my Dolly and Dot raid? The reason we didn't get a Dolly and Dot raid is because it would be literally impossible to kill. Dolly and Dot would be too difficult. Even Method wouldn't have been able to have taken them down. So therefore, no Dolly and Dot raid. Secondly, a question for people in Twitch chat, a question for people obviously listening on the podcast, listening on YouTube. Want to hear your thoughts? Leave us a comment in the Discord. Relevant links should obviously be in the description. Would you say that the storyline for, if they'd have altered it slightly, would the storyline of BFA and thusly leading into Shadowlands been better if Vol'jin had survived Legion and then obviously had been killed at the end of BFA by Sylvanas? So she's, Sylvanas is still the same storyline with Sylvanas in regards to she's been helping out the jailer, she's been throwing loads of souls into the maw. So instead of her kind of keeping this war going, she was, obviously doing things to antagonize the Alliance that weren't technically bad, but were doing things to antagonize, to antagonize the Alliance, bring conflict. Do you think that would have led to a better story, or do you think that the storyline of, you know, Sylvanas makes a little bit more sense because she had that time in Legion?
I don't think she would have done that. I don't think she would have killed Vol'jin, because the thing with Sylvanas is that she was really sneaky and really smart about how she played her role. So she never actively, even though she threatened Garrosh, and so did Vol'jin, she never acted upon it. She could have, and with these powers slowly growing stronger within her, she could have even possibly had a chance of killing him. But if she goes out and straight kills him, that makes Garrosh not only a martyr, but then everyone looks at Sylvanas and go, you traitor, and then all of her plans collapse. So she had to wait for things to naturally find their way to making her the war chief. So, for example, the prediction of the one whispering to Vol'jin being the jailer is a good one, because obviously that ties in with his plans with Sylvanas, so that would drop quite perfectly. However, you've also got to think that my trail of thought has gone.
You can do it.
So basically, so all her plans kind of like led into there. She didn't kill anyone, and so she had to play it really, really smart. So I don't think her killing Vol'jin would have ever worked. If Vol'jin would have stayed war chief and didn't die, I think that would have made for a much better connection between the Horde and the Zandalari trolls.
Oh, massively!
I think that would have been fantastic, because that would have worked. Because their war chief is a whatchamacallit? What was Vol'jin's tribe again? Darkspear. So Darkspear troll wants to speak with the Zandalari, form an alliance between them and the Horde. That's like the perfect connection right there. That also was an issue that I found when it kind of came to Battle for Azeroth. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to have a connection. It's like, who's basically making this connection? Nathanos and Zul.
Hey, don't forget, we had Rokan.
Yeah, we did have Rokan. Yeah, that's true. He played a bit of a side sort of ish maybe role, possibly. Could be future leader of the trolls. That being said, the trolls need a new leader. The Undead also need a new leader, but that looks like it might be Kalia Menethil.
Oh yeah, we don't know yet.
I'm not quite sure about that. If it's a toss-up between Kalia Menethil right now for being the new leader of the Forsaken, or Lillian Voss, which I would not shoot down. Lillian being the leader of the Forsaken.
Voss. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
I hope so.
Lillian Voss. So moving on from sort of like going along with that train of thought in regards to, you know, the storyline, how, you know, you think Vol'jin would have stayed, you know, it would have been better. Obviously, much more of a connection to the Zandalari trolls, much more connection to the war campaign when we're trying to find allies. However, if we go based on what we know that somebody whispered to Vol'jin to say Sylvanas. At this point, we know Sylvanas has made a pact with the jailer to bring a lot of souls to the Maw. The obvious answer is it's the jailer that's whispering to Vol'jin to get Sylvanas to bring these souls in.
Yep.
What kind of a curveball could Blizzard throw at us for this? Is there a curveball they could throw, or is it so laid up now that there's no real way we can imagine anything different because it just wouldn't add up?
Unless, well, see, it's really kind of, you gotta really be careful, because Blizzard is now in very new lore territory in terms for us. So in the past, we've had a lot of things linked back with lore that's already been established. Deathwing came from quite a while ago. Gul'dan, even though it is alternate Draenor, was still Gul'dan. The Legion's the Legion, you know, everything kind of linked back to things that have been in the past. However, we have never visited Shadowlands. We have heard very little about it, and the jailer this is the first time he's ever been mentioned. This is like newly written.
I think the closest we've come to the Shadowlands is got to be our encounters with Bwonsamdi.
That's probably
encounters with Bwonsamdi and our encounters with Helya. I'd probably say they are the two closest we've come to the Shadowlands, and both times we've had very, very little in the way of information.
Yes.
We don't really know what Helia's connection is or how she deals with the souls that end up there or what happens after the fact.
Yep.
And One Somebody, again, I will say it repeatedly, he is the best thing to come out of BFA. His character is fantastic. I don't know who's the voice actor. Someone please look up the voice actor for One Somebody. I need to tweet at him, and I will do it during the show because, good lord, he does a fantastic job.
Imagine if we could get a drop in of him saying, "You're listening to You Think You Do, but you don't." Live on Warcraft Radio. Oh, I'd love that.
Let's do it.
I want to get that. That would be amazing.
We can get all 3 of our fans to tweet at him.
No, that would be fantastic. I'd love to get that. So the thing is that the voice actors for Blizzard are like really awesome. And they do drop like shout outs for some people like that sometimes. Yeah. I know there was like the voice actor for Sylvanas did a sting for a very short sting for another Warcraft radio podcast. So I was like, cool, that's awesome. Yeah, let's get it. If you could have anyone drop us a sting for our show, like voice actor wise for the characters.
Ooh.
Who would you have? My prediction for you would, I think you'd want Garrosh, the voice actor for Garrosh.
Yeah.
No brainer.
So Rav brings up a very, very interesting point.
Okay.
What if it's the Arbiter that whispered to Vol'jin to get us to the Shadowlands, so we could put the scales of balance back to a proper point? So almost like doing something bad for the right reason.
Darren DePaul, please. That's very true. I mean, that's also a true one. But the Arbiter, so I don't know. The Jailer seems to be the one crafting the schemes with Sylvanas. The Arbiter is shrouded in a lot of mystery at the moment, along with the Jailer.
Everything in Shadowlands is.
Everything is. Which, you know what? You know what I said in quite a few shows back and what I've said for quite a while? The one thing I loved about World of Warcraft was not knowing the world, not knowing anything in it, and it was all brand new and shiny. I'm getting this vibe with Shadowlands, and I like it. I don't know anything. I loved knowing some of the lore things where I was just like, oh, that's where Arthur's, called Stratholm, and that's where Uther died, and that's it. It's cool. But before, the going from point A to point B, that mystery there, that was good. And now Shadowlands has given us that with the lore. There's literally a blank canvas that they're now writing upon with some elements of old, with some elements of some old things sprinkled in. I want to see this new content, and I'm very happy.
Not only is it a new content, but also the chance to have new interactions with characters. So don't forget, you also have characters such as Kael'thas. That's pretty much, I think, the only character. Kael'thas, Uther. We know that Thrall's mum is going to be there as well. Agra. So no, Agra's his wife.
Thrall's grandmother Graia, wasn't it, or was it Agra?
I can't remember. Thrall's mum.
Thrall's mum.
It
was either Thrall's mum or grandmother. So... Agra's his wife. she's still alive.
As far as we know, you heard it here first, folks.
Oh, what? When Solfang went to visit him, he's like, "And where are they? Not far." And like behind the hut, there's like 3 graves. It's actually a very dark scene.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Solfang just leads around. Oh, I'm sorry.
Slow winter. Had to eat. Jesus.
I buried the bones.
I would definitely be. I'm definitely for having new interactions with old characters.
He meant his belly, not far.
I don't want them to be. One thing I don't want is for them to lean too heavily on the whole sort of like, it's Kael'thas again. I want them to treat it something seriously. We know that they can do serious things. You only have to look at the cinematics, and they do some very, very good work in the scenarios for the allied races. There's some brilliant work they do in the Mag'har orcs, for example. There's some brilliant work they do in the High Mountain Tauren.
I got something for you.
Learn about. Have you? Please.
So Kael'thas is going to be part of the vampire people, the Sand Lane sort of inspired
Well,
race.
They're not Stan Lane, but yeah.
Yeah, it's similar. I can't remember their actual title, so I'm just going off by what was the closest element to them. So if he's going to be with them, to Paratos, okay, Quantum Rev, the guys in Revendreth, that's the one. Yeah. So if Kael'thas is going to be with them, what I would love to see, and it would be really interesting to see, and we've kind of made a prediction already that Arthas will be in the Maw, because obviously the Darkest of Souls are trapped in there. But if he wasn't, he would be part of the Necrolords, because he was the Lich King for such a long time. He would be well within his element in that area. If he's not actually in the Maw, that's where he would be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be in the Maw.
Yeah, I think he's
100%. He's going to be in.
Yeah, and if not, then who would be part of the Necrolords then? If not Arthas, Anubarak? I don't know.
There's quite a few, because don't forget the Necrolords. They sort of valued strength and determination and grit over almost anything. That's where most of the souls go. So there's quite a few that you could include in there.
That's a good question. I wonder if Kel'Thuzad has ever been there. He because he dies but doesn't and comes back in a phylactery. So I wonder if he's ever gone to the Shadowlands. Sub-Necrolords, goes back to Azeroth. I wonder if he goes back and forth.
No, I don't think so. It's implied that their souls are forever bound and trapped to the phylactery.
Okay.
So there's no way that they could go anywhere else.
Okay, that's fair then, yeah. Because I would say Kel'Thuzad, otherwise he'd definitely be in the Necrolords.
I don't think Kel'Thuzad would. I think if we were to choose anybody that would have been with the Necrolords, you could probably select someone like, someone really out of the blue, Garathos, who was obviously the guy who kind of shat on Kel'Thuzad.
The only good elf is a dead elf. Yeah,
he was a dick, but
that's very true.
He valued strength and determination over pretty much
Rol's
anything.
mum is in the Necrolords. Yeah, I suppose, yeah. That's okay. Fair enough. Okay. I can roll with that.
It gives us. So yeah, the Shadowlands Alpha should be out. Should be out soon.
Yes, we're really hoping, because the longer it goes, the longer we're gonna have to wait for Shadowlands itself to come out. And
I like how we went through all of that. We went from Shadowlands Alpha to the story of BFA to how we would have done BFA better to who is actually whispering to Vol'jin.
Yep.
To who could appear in Shadowlands, back to Shadowlands Alpha.
Yep, we came in full circle. And now we're going to fall off that circle and fall off the train, as we usually do, and talk about Transmogs. What? There we go. Yeah. That was
given to us by the Queen of Murlocs, actually.
Queen of Murlocs, who is now part of the Warcraft radio crew. Welcome on, Queen of Murlocs. It's good to have you with us.
Now, she mentioned balanced druids getting the option to finally wear armor instead of just looking like really special boomkins, and the druid forms as well.
Well, you know what? Yes, yeah, there is armor on the normal transmogs. That's cool. I like that. However, I would like to say that the custom bear form, the one where they're like on all fours, like on their knuckles and whatever, that's a really cool one. Don't give armor to that one. That looks awesome. Don't change that one.
The thing is that all of the interesting quote unquote aspects of the druid forms all come from the Legion artifact weapons.
Yes.
You get a couple of different looks here and there, but outside of that, it's very much just a case of boom, boom, boom. I think it'd be very, very difficult to be in a position where you could create all the armors to fit every single form of the druid correct, and also fit, all the races as well. It's far too much. I'm not against, as Rav said, giving them skins where they unlock certain bits of armor. But if you're playing a druid and you're going to spend the majority of your time in a different form, it's too difficult to fit all of the armor around that.
Yes.
The idea of a druid battle cat wearing the druid's armor is a good idea.
Being literally battle cat from He-Man.
Yeah, realistically, it's slightly too difficult to implement.
Yeah, no, it is. But I mean, not just with druids, but with others. Like, I kind of like the idea. So, like when in Legion you unlock the appearances and whatever, the extra stuff. I think they need to do more of that, because they literally just went with BFA. They just threw that out the window. There's nothing to do with that anymore. And I'm like, why? That was great. Like, I think that was awesome, where you could get, you know, extra druid appearance, or get an appearance for your weapon or stuff like that. I think that was pretty cool. People find transmogs and customization in World of Warcraft very important. I do. Like, if I get a new piece of gear and I'm wearing the wrong gloves, I'm like, oh, balls, I need to go change these right now. Off to the transmog vendor, because I don't have a yak, because I'm, not that I'm poor, I'm just stingy with my money.
Do you feel as though they should loosen the transmog options slightly? So, for example, as a Fury Warrior, I can't transmog to one-handed weapons because they determined that Fury Warriors should use two-handed weapons, which is fine. But if I want to transmog to one-handed weapons, what issue? Where's the issue there? What's the problem with that?
Maybe
it's the same. It's the same with warlocks. I imagine there are certain weapons that warlocks can't use that you would want to use. And I mean, you say the issue is in the animations. I don't think it is at all.
But everyone can do everything.
Not necessarily. So, okay, if that's the case, you obviously don't. You're not going to turn around and say, right, okay, as a warlock, you can have a two-handed mace. It's not going to happen. But what is against them turning around and saying, okay, warlocks don't use, I don't know, warlocks don't use swords or daggers, or I'm pretty sure they do, just as an example.
Yeah, we used to.
What would be against being able to use a sword as a transmog option?
I don't think that's
someone the freedom to make the character look how they look.
I don't think there should be.
On about just going everyone to use all the transmogs they want.
Why not though? I'm curious about that one, because if you're gonna go and say why restrict them on that, why restrict people at all? Because the only reason I can think of that would say, you're sort of restricted to your class and your what you can wear in terms of mail, plate, or cloth and leather. The only reason I can think of that is Blizzard's like, oh, so we want you to be able to identify the class that's coming at you right away with a glance. And I'm like, okay, so that's changing all the time anyway, because of armor sets, because of this and that and the other. And so because people might not know, they could, you know, it's a keep up game anyway. And even then, you could transmog into something really crappy looking and still be like, not maybe immediately identifiable, but you think they might not be a threat, but they are. So they can't use the thing of, oh, so they can't identify them right away, so that's a bad thing, because people can already do that. You could transmog into something that looks completely out of place and unidentifiable, like at a glance. So I don't get what the thing is of just unlocking it all.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
It seems, I don't know. It does seem odd. I think part of it does stem from, I believe, quote unquote, class fantasy, which you do when you come to the, you know, why not just let people do what they want? That kind of falls down. Zaror makes a good point. They let you hide almost all the armor pieces anyway. So, you know, it doesn't. I think sometimes I believe they have done that though to supplement certain armor sets over just straight up hiding the armor. I know some people prefer to hide chest pieces and stuff to make a shoulder piece stand out more, or hide the shoulders to, you know, give the appearance of some sort of blade master. It doesn't quite fit in with, oh, they let you hide it, so everyone just hides it anyway. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I'd be interested to see if they did an experiment. If they turn around during the Shadowlands Alpha and they said anyone, and there might be a few issues with animations, but you have animations for everything anyway. So there's not a case of, oh, orcs can't use this, because orcs have the animation for every single weapon regardless.
Yeah.
I think it'd be more be a case of, I would like to see them just turn around and go, right, for, you know,
the Horde.
For the Horde, yeah, exactly. No, but for 2 weeks of the alpha beta of the Shadowlands Alpha, we are going to let everyone loose on Transmog. You can do what you want. You can change whatever, you know, you can be a warrior wearing cloth set, you can be a cloth wearing plate set.
Because it don't matter.
You do what you want to do. You make the set that you want to make.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see people's reaction to that. I can understand why people would want to turn around and say, you know, I don't particularly want to see a mage wearing warrior tier 6. Maybe keep tier sets separate. I would be fine with tier set speak. So only warriors can wear warrior tier set, only mages can wear mage tier set. I would be fine with that. It would be a case of, there has to be a line somewhere, but outside of tier sets and artifact weapons, just let people do what they want. I would love that.
There was a thing, what was it? We had a discussion, me, you and Dunkirk, quite a few shows back, and we were arguing about something very similar to this. And I said I didn't like it. And you two said that why does what they do affect you? If it doesn't affect you, then why wouldn't you let them just do it? And you and I can't remember what I argued, but I remember us having that discussion. I can't remember what it was about exactly. But in this instance, I'm going to reach back into a few shows, pull that argument out that you guys had.
That was a few shows ago. That doesn't count. You
no,
on this show.
I can because it's not an invalid argument. So now I'm gonna blow it away into your direction, and that's going to be why not just let other people have their transmogs, because you don't want to see them wearing sets, but you it's no problem. Why? How does it affect you?
So it doesn't necessarily affect. So it doesn't affect me in a sense of, this is only for me. It's more a case of, if you're in a position where it kind of sticks more with the class fantasy of it, it would be a little bit, exactly like Rav says, it's all well and good. There's a big difference between having a free for all and removing the restrictions. I think if you remove restrictions for what people can have, at the same time, it's important to keep very specific things separate for each class when it comes down to transmog. There are certain looks that are so, perfect and so well known for a class that it is difficult to get away from that. For example, the judgment set for paladins suddenly being worn by a shaman. There are certain aspects of it that are probably a step too far. Whilst it doesn't necessarily affect me in a way of, that ruins my game immersion, because at the end of the day, we're all playing an MMO where everyone hates each other anyway. I think it's more a case of, if you remove every single restriction, it's probably a step too far. If you move restrictions for class specific requirements, so plate can wear cloth can wear plate, vice versa, and yet classes still maintain their own sets, you then give the best of both worlds, because 9 times out of 10 there are recolors of tier sets available. There are recolors of, the recolors of, tier, the Cataclysm, the first Cataclysm tier set for warriors is available from Islands. You can get that as a transmog. Any plate class can wear it. But the specific color schemes, or a mythic version of something, it's slightly different. I feel as though there does have to be some sort of separation. It's gonna bug me not knowing what we argued about when you guys argued about me with that. I need to remember. I will go back in the shows and see if I can find out. And if I can find, that was it. I remember now.
Do you remember?
I remember. If I remember rightly, it was turning off transmogs for other people.
Oh, so it was related. That was it. Yes.
It was related to transmogs. What I believe the argument was, there was someone that was asking for an option where you can turn off other people's. So the argument was, they were asking for an option where you could turn off the ability to see other people's transmogs.
Right, yes.
And I believe it was myself and Dunkirk that were saying that's a ridiculous idea. Why should you have that ability? And I think it was the other way around. I can't quite remember the argument.
I can't remember the other way around. Yeah, I would have to look it back. I would have to look back and dig it up and find out. But yeah, I will do. Maybe for next week I'll grab a clip or something.
But it's like Rav says, there are iconic tier sets that should, like a mage in Warrior tier 6. Now, I'm sorry, I'm all for someone dressing up like a battle mage, but realistically, if you're a mage and this gets loosened, you're not going to be looking at warrior tier sets.
As a person, no, you're right about that. You're right about that. That's true. But as a person that has played on private servers, because big role player, I have seen someone with restrictions loosened a little. I have seen someone as a battle mage. So it was an alliance human battle mage.
Immediately, I hate it.
Yeah. It was alliance human battle mage, and she had a little bit of the imperial armor, like the guard-ish looking armor, like back from classic or whatever. And she mixed that with a staff or whatever and some armor, and you know what? It looked pretty cool to have like kind of a mixture of that staff and that battle mage look. So yeah, I dig it. I would definitely dig it.
I would be down with that, and I would love to see. Now, I enjoy making transmogs. I do enjoy making transmogs, especially if I see the right thing, I have to get that item. I would 100% be down for a real transmog competition. But could you imagine what Asmongold could do with that? Could you?
But you've got the trial of style. That's all you got right now. But
yeah, the trial of style. Oh.
My brain, my creative brain, just came up with something really cool.
Oh no!
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So. Okay, so we're saying that obviously let's not do the sets. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, so
if they do loosen it,
class specific sets and like Legion artifacts.
What if there was an exception, but this was new? This isn't just taking the old stuff. What if, say for example, you've got a warrior and a priest.
Yeah.
Say for example, you could do a dungeon mythic raid, work towards some sort of progress in some regard. That would earn you either an achievement that would give you three pieces of a set or something like that. And then on your priest, you could do something similar. It doesn't have to be the exact same dungeon or whatever. Maybe it's something different. That'll earn you 3 other pieces of a set. And this is a set you can only get if you have a warrior and a priest. And it combines and it actually becomes a set that you can wear on your warrior or your priest. So it's literally like a dual class set. So it's basically like an achievement for having the 2 classes and then working towards something that they can both wear.
Okay, it's a good idea in theory. Mm-hmm. In execution, you would have to do an infinite amount of sets. Or a high amount of sets.
Well, a high amount of sets, that's true.
Yeah, it would be, I feel like that would be
a lot less work than the artifact weapons, though. They put in a lot more to work to that.
It'd be interesting, but yeah, you'd have to. So it would be a position of A, you'd have to do too many. B, people would have to have a decently geared and / or leveled class of the corresponding class to whichever one you want to unlock. Again, good idea. Would be interesting to see what people could come up with. Not necessarily great in execution.
I would counter your thing of people have to have a leveled up class of that one in corresponding with, when it comes to armor sets, if you want it, you'll go for it. When it comes to most things in WoW. So it's like me for my Volpera. I could instantly, because I haven't pre-ordered Shadowlands just yet because I'm poor. But I could literally pre-order it and boost my Volpera straight to 120. I think it is a 120 boost. And I could boost straight to 120. But I'm not going to because, hey, guess what? Heritage armor! And I want it. And the same goes for like any other class. If it's an allied race, I'd level it from 1 to max. And I'm not the biggest fan of leveling, but I'm doing it because I want the heritage armor. And so I believe that if there was, the one that you need 2 class for, they'd be like, that set looks pretty cool. Shit, I'm going to go level a priest. You know what I mean? So I think it'll happen.
Yeah. I would love, and I'm actually going to...
It would take work. I won't lie, it would take work.
It would take a lot of work. I am 100% going to petition them to potentially loosen the transmog options, if only for armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are a lot of people that would do something ridiculous, like, oh my god, I'm a shaman, and I'm wearing the most hideous set of armor you could ever see. But for the people that enjoy creating their characters, for people that enjoy the RPG element of MMORPGs and
Yes.
creating a character that they can associate with to a degree. The fact that you would have everything open to you, I would love to see. I really, really would love to see.
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. But like my road does still veer off into the hybrid classes ones. Again, in order to get just very briefly, in order to get a battle mage set, you would need a mage and a warrior. And so you do these things, and then lo and behold, you get a battle mage set, and that seems pretty good because you're literally combining and getting a hybrid class set without actually having a hybrid class, but you get a look for it, which I think is pretty cool. I think that would be a cool thing because
these sets, I'm assuming, wouldn't actually have stats on. They would be purely
cosmetic. Yeah, purely cosmetic, of course. But I think that I think WoW needs a few more of them things because right now you're either doing mythics for getting the gear, the corruption, the artifact, or you're going for the more important things, like mount. And
you want paladin sets? Better do priest and warrior.
But you already have paladin sets, but if you want a specific set that looks good, then yes. I mean, sometimes do you ever just go into your wardrobe and look down at the sets and go, God damn, that one looks awesome. And in order to get that, I have to do some of the old raids, or I have to do this, or I have to do that, and go, I'm going to go do that. That is the exact same thought process.
Ixorn saying WoW needs much more cosmetic sets that aren't class locked. I would agree with that. I enjoy cosmetic sets.
I miss the dungeon sets, to be fair.
The dungeon sets were fantastic back in Burning Crusade. They were brilliant. Like, the bold armor set and all that. They looked absolute.
I miss some of them 0.5, the Dread Mist set from Stratholme and everything. Those were cool. I like that. I miss the dungeon sets.
They were very, very cool. I would 100% be behind that. I'm invested in them potentially opening up the transmog sort of armor availability. I would like to. There are certain leather pieces that I'd like to wear. Mail pieces. There are mail pieces that look like better plate than the plate I have. How does that work?
But I mean, look, I think that the stupidest thing is, and
you think you do.
You think you do, but you don't. I think the stupidest thing is that they would have to put in a lot less effort into this than they did with Azerite gear. Like, the amount of effort they must have had to put into that entire system is insane. All they have to do in this regard, in order to just add more dungeon sets is create new sets, just transmog only, or whatever, maybe transmog only, depending on what you want, and plop them into dungeons. That would take a lot less effort than creating this whole Azerite system. So where they put so much effort into that and people have gone, that was pretty shit, stop wasting energy on something overly convoluted which people may or may not like, and just give people more sets.
You say that, I would 100% disagree with that.
Them creating an armor set and just putting in a dungeon is a lot more effort than just the Azerite armor. I would not agree.
No, so, okay, think about it. Azerite system, you have a finite number of abilities. The abilities are fairly easy to come up with. They don't really have much to implement. The Azerite armor pieces, realistically, you have 6 or 7 different variations of them in looks-wise. This one, how many classes are there currently in WoW?
That's 12, I think.
Okay, 12.
Warrior, Mage, Rogue, Hunter, Death Knight, Druid, Monk, Warlock, Paladin. Did I say Mage? 10 or 12.
Okay. What you're asking them to do is you are asking them to create in the region of 100 different sets that are all cosmetically different. I think you fail to understand how difficult that would.
I'm sorry, Blizzard, World of Warcraft, leading MMO of all time. I'm sorry. Actually, no. You're right. I take it back. Sorry, I forget that Blizzard are a small indie company. I do apologize.
Oh, no.
I forgot.
You're not understanding the issue. The issue isn't in creating them. The issue is designing them. As Rav says, that's more armor sets than the last 3 expansions.
And that's what would make it so good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Again, you from a design standpoint, that is much more difficult than implementing Azerite armor. Much more difficult.
Okay, no, in terms of design, yeah, I would agree, because the Azerite armor looked cack. And I think that was another failing of BFA. It just looked shit. So I would say, yeah, no, I'd agree with you. From a design standpoint, yeah, I would agree with you on that. I'll concede that point. From a mechanics point of view, obviously not, because there's obviously stats to a whole twisty-turny thing. But from a design point of view, yeah, no, I will concede that. But I would...
So it's more difficult then.
They barely come up with one good armor set for some raids. Look at the Aldia sets. I know that's...
I do not want even... don't remind me
of the
Aldia sets.
The thing is that they need... So then they need to have some... They need to have a kick up the butt then, don't they? Because... Again, as with, on the subject we will move on from very soon, though, but it is like gear, and the look of gear is extremely important. Sets need to look good, gear needs to look good, weapons need to look good. We like to show ourselves off.
It is, but there was recently a fantastic series of interviews with Kaiser Neko and Lani Pator from Team 4-Star, where they talk about Dragon Ball Z Abridged. And there's a very
let's follow your trail of thought here. Yes, continue.
There's a very relevant quote that comes from Kaiser Neko when he was talking about the scripting of the 3rd season of the Abridged series.
Okay.
And this applies to designing 100 sets, all that look cosmetically different based on which combination of characters you have, of classes you have. Is if you have writer's block, that is something you can push through. If you have burnout, that is something you cannot push through. And that is exactly what would happen trying to design that many sets.
Oh, by the way, when you come up with these 100+ sets, you do realize that I'm still now talking about the dungeon sets, right? Not the class combo sets.
Okay, so
sorry, I kind of did. If I didn't make that clear, sorry. So I dropped that a while ago. So when we moved on to dungeon sets, I missed the dungeon sets. We were talking about 0.5. That's when I moved on. So I was like, okay, we're talking about dungeon sets. So that's when I moved on to it. So what I mean is, going forward, I think they should design a lot more dungeon sets for people. So when you guys were, so I was looking at that when I was saying, are they saying 100+? I was like, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be that many. So no.
In the context of the conversation we were having, you meant the class set.
Yes, I meant just dungeon sets. Yeah, what else?
Okay.
Just dungeon sets. Yeah,
adding 3 dungeon sets, I'm fairly certain they could do.
Yeah, okay, that's what I meant. No,
you absolute moron.
Well, no, we moved on, so I assumed that
we didn't. That was the point.
We moved on to dungeon sets. I will go back and I will tell you the exact point of when we moved on.
Yeah, you moved on. You didn't tell any of us.
Stop lagging behind. I'm in Shadowlands already. What are you doing? Peeling it off. All right. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to the next bloody subject.
Of Zoth, obviously, one of the big things that has come into patch 8.3, aside from the old god himself, is the new legendary item, the Cloak. Azurikamas, or however the hell you pronounce it.
Or there you go, just call it that.
Why would I call it that?
Just cough.
What?
It's easier to say. Pronounce.
What?
Project.
It's more difficult to pronounce than Azurikamas.
Bless you.
Oh, god damn it. So the Infinite Cloak upgrades. We had a little bit more information based on this. Blizzard turned around and said, we know it's getting close to people having level 15 on their cloaks. How close are you, Farseer, on getting level 15 on your cloak?
I'm level 12, I think.
You suck. You need to catch up.
I've not been playing like that much. I'm sorry. I'm not rushing through the very short amount of content we got to stick with for the next 6 months at least.
On the plus side, I did manage to complete a full run of Stormwind with one mask activated, and it was the most difficult mask as well. So, thank you. So when you get to level 30, level 15,
level 30, yeah,
you will then have basically a weekly quest to gain one malefic core. What this malefic core will do is it will increase your corruption resistance on your cloak by 3 each time you use it.
Yay.
You gain one malefic core from either, and this is nice, the fact that you get 2 choices for this one, defeating N'Zoth on normal difficulty or higher, or by completing a full run of a horrific vision.
Okay. You
can get 1 a week.
I sound excited by this. You know why I sound excited by this?
Because you're not excited by this.
That is very true. Thank you for seeing that. The main reason is, and this kind of harkens back again to probably last show actually, when we were talking a bit about the talent trees, about how you guys prefer the new talent trees to the old ones, and one of the main reasons for that was because in the old talent tree, you'd click one talent, it'd be like increase stamina by 3% or 2% or something like that, and that seemed boring to you. That, what you just said there, sounds exactly like that to me. You'd always horrific visions. Hey, look, you get a core to increase your corruption by resist by 3.
There is a slight difference with that in that the interaction is different.
So the way to get to it, yes, but the reward is pretty much the same. The outcome is pretty much the same of you get a minor increase to a stat, which is very anticlimactic.
But yes, you get a minor increase to a stat, but there is a relation to that. So, for example, and to use the old talent trees, say for example, I'm going through the arms tree. I'm gonna get myself 1 extra point in critical damage in axes. Okay,
yeah.
That's okay. I get 1% damage in axes.
Yes.
What?
No, I was just remembering the talents.
I give myself 1% critical damage in axes. I now have 1% critical damage when I use an axe. I won't really notice that, to be honest. It's not going to make a massive difference. I'm not suddenly going to be spamming crits left, right, and center.
No.
This one is slightly different, where it's a case of okay, I've got 3% extra corruption. This piece of corruption gear that I've now just gained, actually, I can use because it keeps me under a certain threshold if I move my gear around slightly. It gives me more chance to have a massive impact on my character. It gives me more chance to play around with what I have. It's building up slowly over time. This should be seen as, and this is a good thing, okay? This is something that isn't just a little thing you have to do every week to gain a little bit of extra power. Whilst you do gain that extra power, it is more of a natural nerf to the final raid of the expansion. We know that guilds are still going to be running through Ny'alotha, not even on mythic difficulty. There are people even now that aren't in heroic, but they want to be. Rather than having all of a sudden 3 months time, boom, massive hit in all of the nerfs across Ny'alotha. Now we have a steady, drip-fed nerf to Ny'alotha, where it feels a lot more natural rather than this really jarring nerfs have happened before, and they're not nice at all. They're actually a bit crap, because all of a sudden you go, this boss that now took 4.5 minutes and we had to go through multiple phases and was quite difficult, now takes 2 minutes and it's an absolute joke. This is something you're constantly working towards.
Yeah, and of course.
I'm much happier for them to do this over just slamming it with nerfs one day.
If you play consistently, says Raph, and yes, that is very true.
If you are in a position, so there is a catch-up mechanic where you can, if you're behind, you can gain double the amount, so you can gain 2 a week. So you've got half the time to do it. If you are in a position where you are not playing consistently, this is something that wouldn't affect you anyway. If you're playing consistently, you're raiding consistently, then this is something that is good. If you're not playing consistently, it isn't going to affect you anyway. If you're not playing consistently, realistically, what could they do to, what could they include to help your inconsistent playing. That's a bit of a that's a terrible argument against it, to be honest.
I mean, in the
That's
long,
kind of like turning around and saying if you don't play consistently enough to raid, you should be given raiding gear.
no, because that argument I always stick by with. I stick by my guns on that one. If you don't play enough to do the raiding, then you don't deserve the raid loot. Of course you don't, because that's just it. If I don't, compared to like when I was younger, I hardly have any time to play World of Warcraft by comparison, and so thusly I could put in less time for raiding because I play other games, blah blah blah. And I don't sit here going, oh, I deserve the raid loot, because I don't raid at all. I'd like to raid, but I don't want to give up my time that I have on other games and other things and doing other things for that. So, thusly, I'm not getting it. It's straightforward. And if other people can't accept that, then they're dumb. So, basically, I will still stick by that. Like, I think the reward still feels a bit Like, I understand what you're saying. And in equivalency, like, I would say that back on the old talent trees, when you put in one talent and you get that 1%, it's not too much. When you put in the talent and then get an extra 2%, it's still not much. But then you put in the talent and you get like maybe 5%. And then you mix it in with the other talents that kind of bounce around with it. Then you start to feel the difference when that talent tree starts to get completed. That's what it's like when you're adding up all the corruptions. And yes, that's when it starts to make the difference. But like the little bits that leading up to that are still kind of like, I guess you're sort of working towards some sort of progression reward on that one, and I get it. I do get it. I suppose part of my pessimism about it is because don't get me wrong, I enjoy the corruption mechanics. Like, I think they're pretty cool. I think there could still be some. I think there could have been better.
Decent corruption mechanics, Blizzard. Where's my infinite stars, you bastards?
And I think there definitely could be some improvements done across, especially when everything they do keeps going against what Ian says, when it's like, oh, we want gear to be really simple. We want you to look at a piece of gear and just...
I tell you what, that is the sort of quote that will haunt a game.
Speaking of morally grey, this is one as well. We want you to look at a piece of gear and quickly identify it. We don't want to veer away from that. Done the complete opposite, like, he knows it. Ian knows it. Like, he knows that that's the case.
That's why, and it's a perfect example why you have to be careful of what you say.
Yeah, very much so. But I think it's at the end of the day, I think it's because of my pessimism, because I am one of them people now that just want Shadowlands. So. And I'm looking from outside. I'm not inside the box. I'm looking outside the box, and I'm going, yeah, that's a nice corruption mechanic that's going to last for this patch and then be gone soon. It's not going to last until... It's not going to go into Shadowlands and whatever. The corruption is going to be gone. It's all just for this patch. And while I respect that there is always something for this patch, like the mana pearls and stuff with Najtar and now this, it now feels as though we're all just... Yes, it's a bit fun. This patch is good fun. I would like to still finish LFR and kill Zoth, and that's about it, because I know I'm not going to get to normal raids and I don't want to dedicate any time to it. So outside of doing LFR, outside of running some horrific visions sometimes with you guys, maybe one day we'll get around to doing some bloody mythics.
I do mythics all the time.
God, fucking yeah, not with us. But...
No, I actually like to complete my mythics.
Do you want... I'm pretty sure I have that recording of our Mechagon run that I'll have to put up somewhere at some point, where you went really quiet for half of it in about the middle of the run, when we swapped out about 3 or 4 different members.
Let us not... Do you know what the worst part about that was?
Yes.
The worst part about that was not 2 hours earlier, I had done a Mechagon run, and it had gone so smoothly.
But
you didn't even realize. And then all of a sudden, YouTube came in, and it was probably one of the most painful experiences I have ever had on
But though
on
it
World
wasn't.
of Warcraft.
It
not
was
even,
not.
even
No.
related to doing like.
When we
You know,
began.
I've bashed my head against bosses in raids.
No.
I have tried and grinded my ass off for artifact power and for Azerite power. I have done dailies for hours on end. I have done rep grinds. I leveled through Burning Crusade when it first came out and was terrible. I have done so many things in this game that don't even come close to the agony that run gave me.
I don't know what you're talking about, Rav. Me and Dirk had a great time.
It was the most frustrating
The
thing.
best part was it wasn't even entirely my and Dunkirk's fault. So the first part was we had a fifth member who was a warlock who was doing less damage than me.
Which is
Which is an achievement.
which was ridiculous.
So, like, we had the first couple of packs and we were looking at their damage. We were like, okay. Then we got to the first boss and their damage was, like, super low. So we were like, yeah, no. So then we got somebody else. I can't remember what the second person was like, but there was an issue. And then eventually...
What it was Dunkirk was tanking.
Yes.
You were on your Demon Hunter.
Yep.
The Warlock was playing on the toilet or was in some sort of war zone, because there is absolutely no way a human being standing still in front of their keyboard could do that little damage. The healer was fine, but the healer was the clever one, because 30 seconds in he went, oh, fuck this, and peaced out.
We got another healer in. And then we got
him with the patience of an absolute saint.
And then we got one of the other guild members from Novella in, who was, oh my god, that was hilarious. He was super serious. Now, if you think Kex is serious when it comes to raiding in dungeons, this guy was literally like chew your ass out serious. Like, he was super on it. And if there's one step out of line, he was getting really pissed. And and because of this, so you have to find you'll find no, it wasn't Donnie, because like Dunkirk and whatever would have gotten along with him fine. So you'll find with me and Dunkirk especially, when someone comes in and they're like super like, this is how we do it and you don't go out of the lines, a little bit like Kexman, but he was worse than Kex. He was way worse than Kex. We will literally do the opposite.
Hang on. I want to make something very clear here. It wasn't a case of me turning round and going, this is super serious, this is exactly how you do it. But I would... It's more a case of, if you're going to enter into a dungeon, especially Mechagon, that is considered this expansion's mythic dungeon, or mythic dungeon plus, if you will, very similar to Karazhan, where it is slightly more difficult. I expect a basic sense of competency from everybody in the group. Unfortunately, there were two members of this group that were dragging it down. Can you guess who they were?
Me and Danko are having a fantastic time. And so when someone comes in and is literally like stone-faced, rigid, and is like doing this for super serious runs, me and Dunkirk do the complete opposite. You'll find that that's how we operate. Because Dunkirk runs on this old Novella principle, and I run on this principle, and this was even before I was part of Novella. This is how I've always been, where you can do the content and you can do it well and you can have a great time and you don't have to be really super stern and whatever about it. So when someone comes in and is really super stern about what you got to do, we literally just switch on and be like, yeah, okay, cool, dude. The Kexman also witnessed this when we did the old Antorus raid the other day as well. He had a great time.
Mechagon, and that's the point, Nixon. Mechagon isn't hard.
It wasn't.
It's not hard.
It was our first time going through it. It was great fun. I loved it, man. It was so fun.
The worst part is that, like, as I said, 2 hours before, I had a run that was smooth. It was beautiful. Everyone was doing what they were supposed to do.
Oh, that's great. It was
the worst part about it was I think it got to a point I just stopped talking to him.
He did. He literally, Kex, I've never had Kex go silent before, but he, about halfway through, he just stopped talking, didn't say anything, and he was just dead silent. I mean, Doko will just have a great time. It was
closest,
awesome.
actually, no, there was one I can remember. One time, we're going slightly off topic here, but you've
Welcome to the show.
Now.
Welcome to the show.
Now you're going to get all the barrels. There was one other time I can remember when Farseer did something so face-achingly stupid, I couldn't help but get angry at him. And that was when Mythic Keystones were first in Legion. And he knows exactly, he's laughing because he knows how angry
this was just miscommunication is what this was.
No, it wasn't communication, it was you being stupid! It was a case of the Mythic Keystones. Obviously, when you get in there, you place the keystone down, it starts, and then away we go.
Oh god!
This keystone was for the Maw of Souls. Me, Dunkirk,
you will never
Rav
ever let
there,
this go.
Everyone was there. We get into the dungeon. I say on Discord or Mumble or whatever Discord I think was around at that point.
Yeah, I
turn around and I say, "Is everyone ready?" And every single person, Farseer included, goes, "Yes." Fantastic. Use the keystone. 30 seconds later, on Discord, Farseer goes, "Oh, I can't get into the instance." I wonder why that is, because you can't go into the instance when a keystone run is coming. Why did you say you were ready when you weren't even in the dungeon?
Because I was ready for the dungeon. Like I said, I was ready for the dungeon.
No,
I said,
you weren't.
Yeah, I was.
How can you be ready for the dungeon when you're not even in?
Yeah, because I was ready. I was ready to go for the dungeon. Like I was flying towards it. I was really close. I was like, yeah, I'll be ready for it. And I was like, yeah.
No, I will be ready for it. I said, "Is everyone ready?"
Yeah, no, you didn't say ready to go. You didn't say I'm putting in the keystone. You just said, is everyone ready? I was like, yeah, I'm ready for the dungeon. I thought when you said, is everyone ready? Is everyone present and like ready to do this dungeon? I was like, yeah, sure, I'm present. I'm ready to do this dungeon. I'll be there in a moment, you know. I assumed that in the very small hallway with the mist around you, like in front, and you can see the members around you, you'd notice that I wasn't standing there. But I guess not. So, like I said before,
that area is not a big area. It's a small area.
Exactly. So how did you miss me? Simple, really. So there's a lack of communication.
I cover you.
There's a lack of communication, clearly. I mean, there's plenty of space to stand and check me out, but I mean,
oh god,
I'm an orc as well. I was an orc at the time. I wasn't small either, so
that's still.
Ready check? Yeah, there was no. You didn't put in a ready check. That was your fault.
Yeah, I did a verbal ready check. If I'd have put a ready check, you clicked ready.
No, I just said not ready, so I'm not there yet. But you didn't do.
You'd have done that. You should have said when I did the verbal ready check.
No, you didn't do a ready check. You were just like, it's everybody. I was like, I'm ready to do this dungeon. Yeah.
Is everybody ready? How is that not a ready check?
Actually, you know what? No, I think you misremember that. I didn't think I said yes at all. I think I just didn't answer.
No, you definitely did because I asked everyone.
I don't
said
remember.
Yes.
No, I don't.
Rav was there.
I don't think I answered. I don't think I answered. No, I don't think I answered. I think you just went on and assumed I was there. Lack of communication, like I said. Definitely answered. I don't think I did. I don't think I did.
Anyway, speaking of absolute morons, we were. We'd like to welcome you to the newest segment here on You Think You Do, But You Don't.
It came last week and it's back again.
It's time for Clickbait Crap with Kexman and Farseer.
Yay.
Farseer, what clickbait crap have we got for them this week?
Oh gosh, I can't. I wish I could just have it ready to bring up on screen, but I don't. Well, you know, I think we're gonna go to the king of clickbait crap. And because no one else seems to call him out on it, like on any official, like, you know, any on the official shows or anything, we're going to be the ones to do that because that's what we do here. Welcome to the little man. Well, that was a bit much, but okay. Welcome to the man known as Bellulor, who is the king of clickbait crap, who loves to make the best clickbait titles.
I want to point out as well. I want to point out, Bellulor used to make really good videos about 12 to 18 months ago, and for some reason something changed.
Yep.
And I don't know whether it was because he saw it as a marketing tactic,
I would say yes.
saw it as the ability to get more views on his videos. But recently, the past year, his videos have just been really, really heavy on clickbait. You know, and yeah, you've got to chase the YouTube algorithm. That's what he's doing, but there's a way to do it. I mean, it is just becoming clickbait crap, and unfortunately, it's kind of led to the increase in clickbait crap. And now we have somebody else who doesn't necessarily make videos, but Pyromancer is another one who will regularly tweet out what he claims are spoilers or his plans, and then when they don't happen, he still says he was right. So, what do you know?
What example do you have of Pyromancer saying that? Like when he was saying about himself being right, even though he's proven wrong.
So Pyromancer like he will just put really, really ridiculous. He'll put really, really ridiculous things in regards to, for example, quite recently, where was the most recent one? I can't remember. Hang on. Let me find it.
While you're looking for it, I'll give you Belial's latest one. I like this one. It starts out with ... But why Azeroth with a full caps. Blizzard's insane scale cosmic battle explained. What's actually happening in WoW? That's Belial's title. That's how it reads. So I love to read them like this, because when you read them like that, that's how stupid they sound when you kind of put them into a reading context. So, for example, but his last one really took the cake, because you know how no one is in the alpha, Kex? Like, absolutely no one except Blizzard staff. 1 week ago, and we did discuss this, Shadowlands Alpha on BNet.
Yep.
Blizzard's big 8.3 improvement changes and new TV shows. But yeah, that big one. That's Shadowlands Alpha on Battle.net, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's no one's on it. It's not there, and because like it's there to be gained access to doesn't mean the alpha's on the Battle.net. It's literally like saying Animal Crossing and Doom is out when it's on pre-order. Essentially, it's not out. It's definitely not out. No one's playing it. But you know, it's what you got to put up. Got to get that algorithm. I want to do a prediction. I think we did this last time, didn't we? We said that we'd maybe put up a big like a Belial style title for the video and see if it got more views. And I'd be saddened if it did, because it probably would.
It's really, I mean, going back to Pyromancer, so like he'll just tweet out stuff like, "Those who are the weakest of their kin shall always be drawn toward power. They long for it, they thirst for it. They will consume it the first chance they get. He gave into power, and he provided it."
Argeras?
What? I don't. What? I don't.
What?
I don't. Yeah, exactly. But that's all we get.
What? Cryptic.
But that's all we get.
That's cryptic. That is. But what about the example of when he said something and he was wrong though, and then said he was still right, or what was it?
I can't. I'm not going to scroll through that. There's only so much crap you can actually trawl through.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, I was pretty sure like maybe there was like a big example. I do. Mm-hmm.
There were examples like during BlizzCon when he said certain things were going to happen and it didn't. Like, for example, him saying that the Shadowlands jailer was going to be Argus.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I did hear about that. That's a weird one. That's kind of weird. I suppose I don't like that when other people try to make things like, oh look, it's something that was somebody that we already know. Why can't it just be a new lore character?
And
just
Lord of the Rings reference might be huge.
Was that actually a title?
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. Jesus. When did he make that one?
Oh, that was just after the cinematic of N'Zoth's death.
Oh. Because the one I see is Blizz blew it. It utterly BFA's disastrous end.
Yeah, it's
Oh, lore breakdown in brackets. How N'Zoth lives and Lord of the Rings ripoff. N'Zoth's alive, guys, according to Belior.
yeah. There's just a ridiculous level of stuff.
He got hit by the ray of origination, which literally like terraforms planets and wipes out anything original out. But he's alive.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I always had the prediction of like, you know, the other old gods were alive, even though we beat the crap into them, like Cthulhu and like Yogg-Saron, even though Duncan says we lobotomized him. But there's one thing of like killing them, then there's one thing of deleting them. We deleted N'Zoth. There is no living from that. He's gone. Like we had our own hopes and dreams on the show that N'Zoth would live. And that there's a whole nightmare, and this whole thing's a vision, and what have you. But Ian has pretty much confirmed that no, he's dead. So
he did.
He did. He very much did. So, are you sure that Pyro isn't just high while tweeting? I mean, it might be. Who knows?
It's entirely possible, to be fair.
I mean, I would tweet while I'm high. I'm just like, I'll be like, sorry. Argus might be linked, but surely
Argus isn't linked at all. It's
the jailer
really,
ain't him.
So it basically it stretches to. There are stretches in the WoW lore that, and this is the big problem that you have. And I know it's cool to hate on Blizzard because lol China, and you know apparently Warcraft 3 is a terrible thing when
I've been having fun with it.
It's actually a problem, and I'm going to go on a limb here. There are issues with Warcraft 3.
Oh, yeah, sure.
However, the biggest issue is with community expectations.
Oh, yeah.
And this is probably a very, very unpopular opinion, but the way that people reacted to certain things. So when Blizzard said that they turned around and they said, we want a completely new, revamped Warcraft 3 experience. WTF Blizzard, why you change things? Okay, which which one do you want?
It was very close, very close to Classic as well, where they were like, we don't want no changes, and then it was like, yeah, but we're doing this to improve it, and then some people were like, oh, okay, but other people were like, why are you changing this for? Like, but
you can't win.
You cannot win. No, of course you can't. And Blizzard knows this. So what Blizzard do is they try and cater to the majority and do the most sensible thing, and then people are just going to hate. They're just like, the people who are going to hate are just going to hate. Let's just continue doing what we're doing. But I think the biggest thing with Warcraft 3 was especially cinematics, where they were changing, and then the community went, we don't want that. Like, apparently it must have been the majority, because Blizzard went, okay then. And actually heard them, was like, okay, we hear you, we won't. And then when they did just keep the originals, the community just went, why didn't you add the original cinematics? You said you were going to add new ones. But you guys said you didn't want it.
It was another one.
They forget that though. Like I have a friend who I had a friend who came out at me and it was like, oh, Warcraft 3 is disastrous. I'm like, okay, why so? And they're like, one of the reasons he brought it was the cinematics. I'm like, okay, you realize that the community didn't want that, right? And they conveniently forget things that they said in the past when it suits them. Like, but you asked for that. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. A lot of you asked for that. Like, you didn't want it to move away. So let's reverse the roles. If Blizzard did redo all the cinematics, it would literally be like, oh, why'd you do all of them? It's so far from the original now. It's no longer authentic. They literally, they couldn't have won. No matter what they did.
These sort of videos, the clickbait videos, I think it's good to speculate.
Yes.
Speculation is fine. Speculating things just to speculate, if that makes sense. So just speculating something out of the blue to make yourself sound cleverer than you actually are is not good. No. It's unhealthy to the game. It's unhealthy to the community as a whole. Gives people expectations where there aren't any because we know nothing. Especially if you do it in such a negative light as well. Every single time you see these sort of clickbait titles, it is never, Blizzard do good or Blizzard make right choice. It's always Blizzard's big gambit or Blizzard make wrong choice. And have you always noticed as well how the people that in these clickbait titles that draw people in always have the least amount of grammar?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And harkening back a little bit to the Save Hong Kong thing, everyone's kind of gone quiet about that now, haven't they?
Do you remember that when everyone wanted Blizzard? You know, when everyone thought Blizzard were doing a bad thing and that Blizzard were going to die within 6 months.
When was it about 10 shows ago or something? Now we were like, yeah, people will forget about this in a month or a couple of weeks. Oh look, it's gone very quiet now. Suddenly, hasn't it?
The highlight of my BlizzCon was walking past someone giving out, you know, save Hong Kong or Free Hong Kong shirts, and noticing the fact that I know for a fact that these shirts were printed in China.
Oh boy,
the beauty of it was unparalleled.
Oh man, it's the negativity sells. It does. It honestly does. But hey, like Hong Kong, like the Save Hong Kong thing, and that message. The message obviously was of a positive one, but wielded as a weapon in like for people's selfish desires. People made the Free Hong Kong videos. They jumped on the bandwagon. They hated on Blizzard. They hated on this, but they didn't really hate Blizzard. They just did it because it got them views and it got them news and it was something to scream and shout about. Because, funny enough, again, like right now, no one's screaming about it. And the thing is that them people who came even to here and to Warcraft Radio and said that we were shills, and even though we hate on, well, not hate, but like rip on Blizzard all the time, said that we were shills and that, like, you know, threats. That's always a good one. Never threaten people. That's a very unwise decision and very stupid and immature.
Well,
depends how much trouble you want to get in, though.
What situation you're in.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, where's all that rage and anger gone now? It's gone into you playing World of Warcraft. Or other Blizzard games, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are harkening on about it are still playing WoW, are still playing Overwatch, are still playing the other games that they were playing before. Because if you weren't in the Blizzard community and you heard about this thing from Blizzard, probably didn't care too much. Like so for GTA, Rockstar, if Rockstar went and did something, I'd be like, that's pretty shit, but I wouldn't go start like yelling at them about stuff because I don't really care about Rockstar, what they do, you know, unless I'm involved in GTA or what have you. But so for that being said, unless you're in the Blizzard community, you're not going to go yelling and scream about it. So all them people who are yelling and screaming about it are part of the Blizzard community, are still probably playing Blizzard games and probably don't care anymore. They're probably more concerned with the Hakar Cursed Blood.
A lot of the people that were screaming about it probably weren't part of the Blizzard community.
Maybe. I can guarantee you a lot of them were.
Use it as no, but it's the whole fake outrage thing.
Yeah.
So they used it as a, you know, I'm part of something.
Yes.
I'm part of what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens all the time, whether it's in gaming, anywhere like that. There is always one thing that has come into fruition the past couple of decades, the past 10 years especially, is outrage culture.
Yeah.
We have seen it across the board. One of the most famous examples, the whole Gamergate situation. That was something.
Jesus, that was a shit show.
That was something that realistically had the beginnings of it were a very, very important lesson to learn and B, information to get out there. In that, yes, that sometimes that there is an issue with the journalistic integrity of certain people and the places people will go to gain favors for a journalism, for a good viewpoint from a journalistic perspective is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It then became something entirely different.
Oh yeah. No.
It's the same with this.
With Gamergate though, dude, I have read up about that so many times and I still don't get it. It's such a mess of what it was. Like, I've read about it like about 3 or 4 times now, and I'm still in my mind like, what actually happened? Like, that's how bad it was. But obviously, we're not gonna we won't go into it. But it's the same thing. Like, you know, whenever there's big bad negativity, people like to jump on it because, you know, outrage culture get some views, feel they're part of something. It's probably most of the time not what they actually feel. I think we said this at the time, and I'll say it again. A lot of people who are screaming about the Free Hong Kong thing didn't actually give a shit about Hong Kong. No, or the people in it. They didn't care about it before Blizzard, before this whole thing with Blizzard. Suddenly, oh, I now care. No, you don't. You didn't care. Like, were you saying about this before or talking about it before in any way, shape, or form? I bet none of them even said a single word about it before, or even knew. And then as soon as Blizzard did a bad thing, something to jump on. Yeah. So and
it's this perfect, and this kind of ties back into the clickbait culture. People jump on this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They dive straight into it, and even if they don't necessarily understand or care where it's coming from, they still see it as this is something that we need to get angry about this, or oh my god, I can't believe Blizzard would do this. But they haven't. No. That's the whole point. Yeah. They haven't done it yet. This is someone saying, by these clips, I think I could put together some blue tack and a Kellogg's box, and here I've made a guinea pig.
Yeah,
that's the sort of stuff we're dealing with.
Yeah. It really is. So, like I won't lie. So I think there's a difference between. I think there's a big difference between what's the word? So clickbait titles, yep, and enticing titles. So when some people have different meanings when they say clickbait. So when I hear clickbait, I think that is someone clicking a title or a thumbnail which has like no relevance to what's actually in the video. So there'll be something on the thumbnail that's said, or in there, like, it shows a picture of the Pope. It's like, I'm at the Pope, and you go in there, and there's literally, like, he drives past in the Pope-mobile, and, like, he actually didn't meet him. He drove past in the street, for example. Yeah. So that's what clickbait is. It's false. It's baiting you into clicking the video, and then there's nothing there. Some people see clickbait as just, as what I see them as, enticing titles to just click. But Rickrolled, yeah. So, yeah, you've Rickrolled. Ixor's got it, yeah. There's a difference between that and enticing titles. Like, for example, our reaction videos. Our reaction videos do have enticing titles. And yes, because, again, got to chase the algorithm. It's part of the nature. However, we are not being disingenuous about it. Everything about the title is very relevant to the video. Most of the time, the quotes are from what we actually say in the video, and the titles are related and feed directly into what we're doing. I never go out of the way and saying extra scene with Nzoth unseen before, because that would be ridiculous. You know what I mean?
You can still have a clickbait title that still talks about. So, for example, I'm fairly certain Belialer could put out a title that he would talk about. So the video would talk about something that's going on, whereas
if you could do anything to turn yourself up, please do, because you're getting quieter and quieter, and I've pumped you up to 200% over the course of this show, and I can't put you any higher.
There are many things.
Thank you. Oh, that's perfect.
Over the course of a video. You could take a look at what you're doing with the title and your content. They can be the same thing. However, the difference between a regular title and a clickbait title, I am still here.
Yeah, I'm hearing you perfectly now, though, by the way.
The difference that you've got between a clickbait title and a regular title is a clickbait title is designed to make someone click it if they are angry at something or if they are frustrated at something. That is a clickbait title. They turn around and they say, I can't believe they did this. They didn't yet. Or I cannot believe they, that's BS. I don't believe that. And then you watch the video. That's essentially the definition of a clickbait title. It baits you into clicking it.
Okay. I get you there. Yeah, I mean, my definition is still sort of stays the same, but I get what you mean. I just have a different wording for it, I suppose. But like we said, you can do them without being, again, disingenuous and all that, and having some integrity. I suppose you used that word earlier. It's a very important word, which is very apparently very hard to come by for a lot of people these days, to have integrity. Like, they'll throw that away for a breadcrumb at a moment's notice.
Oh, I would throw my integrity away for
a very small amount of money, to be honest.
I mean, I know you don't have none. How dare you even imply such a thing?
That's
Oh God. Can I have a 1, 2, 3?
you can have a 4, 5, 6.
Okay, that'll do. Yeah, thanks. Clickbait definition on the internet: content whose main purpose is to attract the attention and encourage visitors to click the link on a particular web page. What would be the definition of the word clickbait? That's not that's misleading. I suppose misleading clickbait. I guess. I suppose
It's just a misleading title rather than clickbait.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair. I can roll with that. But like I say, you'll never get that here on at Warcraft Radio. When we say we have an exclusive interview with Ian Hazzikostas, we mean we have an exclusive interview with Ian Hazzikostas, which we did. Fake news. But hopefully,
fake news.
But hopefully, we should have some more juicy content come out for you guys in the near future.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Once
between this episode and the next episode, Alf. What? What did I miss?
That got out at the best time. So, what I heard is between this episode and the next episode, Alf.
Yeah, Alf. The famous 80s kids Muppet mascot is going to return. Hopefully, we will finally see the return of our space overlord, and Alf will run amok amongst us, purging all those who are unworthy. Alf returns in Shadowlands. Blizzard's big chance. There we go. That is the name of this week's show.
Oh my God.
This week's show is Alf returns in Shadowlands. Blizzard's big chance.
Oh my God. Remind me to send that over to Moogie. Oh gosh.
New belly Levidding coming. Good Lord, please no.
God. What is that screaming man?
Most of the people listening, I think.
Probably. Christ. So between this week and the next, Alf. Also, yeah, so hopefully we'll have some good things in the future coming for you as well, though, guys. But that will be when the Curse of Fakar virus subsides. So before we wrap up the show again, we'd like to remind you guys that to stay very clean, wash your hands, stay very healthy. If you have been to Zul'Gurub or anyone that know has been near Zul'Gurub, please direct them to the nearest priest or paladins, or if you're on the Horde, it could be the shamans, because they're still in my mind they're still faction specific.
Please make sure you contain yourself.
For
at least 2 weeks.
If you've got the Hakar curse, if you've got the blood curse of Hakar. Do not infect others. It's not cool. Don't go to any major events like summer solstice gatherings or winter veil or anything. I know it sucks, but avoid it. Don't spread it to other people. It's bad. That'll just make it worse for everybody.
I have actually heard that I know apparently in a couple of weeks we are supposed to have a big event happening down I believe Noble Garden is coming shortly. Unfortunately, we have had to cancel Noble Garden.
Oh, no. What? No.
Yeah, Noble Garden has been cancelled. It may be put until later in the year, but unfortunately, to avoid the spread of the Blood Plague, Noble Garden has been cancelled.
Well, that sucks.
Once again, it's nice to know that there is no real world alternative to this. This isn't happening in the real world.
No.
So we can kind of relax on that.
But if this did happen in the real world, then obviously check out the guidelines for whatever country you're living in to be safe. If it did.
If anything like this happened in the real world, where there was some form of, vastly spreading virus that was causing issues for a lot of people, mostly the weak people, I would imagine that the majority of people would take this in their stead with a sensible nature, and they wouldn't panic or spread any form of misinformation either.
We can only hope.
We can also only hope for the return of Alf. Before the next No, of course, Shadowlands Alpha, hopefully before the show starts next week. So if we do get the alpha next week, the show is going to be a big one.
Yes.
Because we're going to be looking through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so if alpha is released sometime this week, please keep an eye on youtube.com/Warcraft Radio. There will be videos going up. There will be discussions happening in the Discord. You can get to the Discord by visiting warcraftradio.com, following links there, or even coming to twitch.tv/warcraftradio. And also, we got a Discord link below the video player as well.
If you're in the chat, you can also use the command !Discord, which will give you a link there, ready for you in the chat.
I know, it's beautiful. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining myself and Kexman for the show this week. We have had beautiful discussions, as always.
My name has been Alf.
That has been Alf. I have been Farseer.
Alf.
And we will be back next week. Until then, guys, stay safe. And
no, don't stay safe. I disagree. Take risks. Take risks in life. Enjoy it.
Find a balance. Yeah, we'll end on that.